Namaste friends, I am Jalakshmi Ravichandran signing in on behalf of Magic Needles. This day I am here with numeral 0 in Filet Crochet. For basics of Filet Crochet and how to work chainless foundation DCs, I have given links to their videos in the description box. To begin this particular motif, we need to have 20 solid squares as the first row of 61 DCs. Second and third row have one solid squares on either side with 18 open squares between them. The fourth row and all even number of rows are read from left to right and worked. All odd number rows are read from right to left and worked. The fourth row, let us begin the fourth row now. One solid square, 6 open squares, 4 solid squares, 8 open squares and 1 solid square. Fifth row, right to left, 1 solid square, 6 open squares, 3 solid squares, 1 open square, 3 solid square, 5 open squares and 1 solid square. Sixth row, 1 solid square, 5 open squares, 2 solid squares, 3 open squares, 2 solid squares, 6 open squares and 1 solid square. Seventh row, 1 solid square, 5 open squares, 2 solid squares, 4 open squares, 2 solid squares, 5 open squares and 1 solid square. Eighth row, 1 solid square, 5 open squares, 2 solid squares, 4 open squares, 3 solid squares, 4 open squares and 1 solid square. Ninth row, 1 solid square, 4 open squares, 2 solid squares, 5 open squares, 2 solid squares, 5 open squares and 1 solid square. 10th row, 1 solid square, 6 open squares, 2 solid squares, 4 open squares, 2 solid squares, 4 open squares and 1 solid square. 11th row, 1 solid square, 4 open square, 2 solid square, 4 open squares, 2 solid squares, 6 open squares and 1 solid square. 12th row, 1 solid square, 7 open squares, 2 solid squares, 3 open squares, 2 solid squares, 4 open squares and 1 solid square. 13th row, 1 solid square, 4 open squares, 3 solid squares, 1 open square, 2 solid square. The rest are open squares ending with a solid square. 14th row, 1 solid square, 9 open squares, 4 solid squares, 5 open squares and 1 solid square. 15th and 16th rows have 1 solid square on either side with 18 open squares between them, and the 17th row is 20 solid squares or 61 DCs to end with. Thank you friends for watching. Have a nice day.